So my last job sucked. Let me just say, I am not the type for customer service. Catering to intricate coffee orders is so fucking monotonous. I'll have a latte with 4.375 shots of espresso and 1.5 pumps of caramel and skim milk boiled to a blah, blah, blah. Not to mention being confined to an 800 square foot establishment for 8 hours a day. So one afternoon on my lunch break, I was thumbing through the paper and came across the want ads. As I was skimming through them, I found one in particular that piqued my interest. It read, "Couriers wanted. Start immediately. Work for self. Set your own hours." This sounded right up my alley. I already love to drive, and I'm always up for a good road trip. Plus, the perks? I mean, come on. I get to listen to my own music, no manager breathing down my neck, and fuck all that, "How are you doing today? May I take your order?" And I really hated having to work late when someone didn't show up for their shift. Not to mention the same faces with their same orders and their same routines, with their push-button laptops. And I don't feel this kind of job requires a 2-week notice. So I called the number in the paper and set up an interview. Now, I knew I wasn't going to have to be dressed to impress. I mean, come on, really? I'm just going to be driving around delivering packages. So I show up, schlepped out, sweatpants, ball cap, and yeah, I don't even care coming off as arrogant by wearing my sunglasses. Waiting rooms have always been strange to me. I mean, the entire atmosphere, with the magazines and all the bullshit, it's just odd. Now mind you, there's like 9 other people in this waiting room, and that's when I get to thinking, what chance do I have? And at a later time, come to find out the waiting room was shared with applicants for a casting couch. "Sarah, Jenna's ready to see you." Now I have to admit, I was nervous at first, walking into Jenna's office. Now I won't get into details on how the interview went. I will say it was pretty flirtatious. Let's just leave it at that. So I got the job and I start tomorrow, which unfortunately is Friday. Happy Friday. Ugh. Who starts a job on a Friday? I guess I do. Fuck. And what really sucks is for my first day, there's snow in the forecast. Now I was told to show up Thursday night at 1:30 a.m., which is technically Friday. And whatever. They gave me a list with a bunch of addresses and loaded me up with a bunch of packages. Good luck, drive safe, and call into headquarters if you run across any issues. It was already lightly snowing, and I knew the worst of the storm was yet to come. My first 3 deliveries were within a couple miles of each other and went really smooth. As I was tuning into my favorite talk radio station, I saw that my next deliveries were somewhat further out, roughly 30 miles further out. And wouldn't it figure, my low fuel indicator starts beeping at me. Now I'm like, shit, fuck, I have to stop in this cold-ass weather to fuel up. However, the thought of a good strong coffee sounds really good. So I pulled off the highway at the next available exit and proceeded to the closest gas station. It was quite busy, due to the fact it was also a truck stop with semis coming in to fuel up, park overnight, and get washed. Well, maybe not get washed in this weather. As I was entering my credit card and preparing to pump, I caught a glimpse of myself on the reflection of the car window. Then I hear a female voice, slowly approaching. "Hi, would you happen to have a cigarette I can bum off you?" she asks. I hesitated for a moment while I was reading her appearance and demeanor. She looked to be in her mid-20s and, from what I could see under her hooded sweatshirt, mid-length brown hair, about 5'9", and not adequately dressed for this weather. "I am out of cigarettes," I told her, "but I am going in to buy a coffee and a pack or 2. Would you like to come in with me? I'll give you a couple smokes and buy you a coffee if you're interested." "Oh my God, that would be great," she replied. So I set the pump to fuel as we hurry into the store. As we're getting our coffee, she reaches out her hand to shake mine and says, "I'm Sarah, by the way." "How funny. My name is Sarah too. Nice to meet you." We both laughed as we proceeded up to the counter. "Hey, just a coffee for you?" says the heavyset clerk as he sits on his stool. "Actually, I'll take a pack of Marlboro Lights as well, please." "You got it. Drive safe now. That storm is coming in. Strong. Reckon it's gonna be a big one." "Thank you, I will," while exiting the store. I unwrap the pack of cigarettes and hand a few to Sarah. "Thank you so much for the coffee and smokes. Now, you wouldn't be happening to be going north by any chance?" I thought for a second, should I lie or tell her the truth? I was headed north, and I'm assuming she may want to catch a ride with me. I'm not really the type to pick up a hitchhiker, but I kind of felt bad for her. And being that she was a female and seemed pretty harmless, I was honest in telling her I was headed north and decided to offer her a ride. I was 20 miles away from my next stop and figured the company would be nice. I hung up the pump, grabbed my receipt, and we were on our way. As soon as we were pulling off, she started to thank me for offering a ride. She expressed that she hadn't seen any other women at the gas station that night, and she was not willing to take a ride from a man. I was definitely understanding of that. I wouldn't want to hitch a ride with a man either. Then she asked, "What are you doing out at this hour?" "Well, it's actually my first night at this new job. I deliver packages for a courier service." "Oh, that's cool," she said. "How are you liking it so far?" "Outside of driving in this crappy weather, the 2 hours I have worked so far don't seem to be too bad. I'm not really sure yet," as we both laughed in sync. Once the heat had kicked in and it was getting nice and toasty in the car, she took her hood down from over her head. At this point, I couldn't help but notice the large scar on her face, running from the corner of her left eye to the edge of her lip. Outside of the scar, I was also able to see that she was far more attractive than I had realized. I was so tempted to inquire about this scar immediately when I saw it, but I did not want to be rude. I decided instead to engage in simple conversation, which led me to ask, "So, what's your story?" She slightly chuckled and took a deep breath, followed by a long sigh. "Shit, girl, where do I begin? You might not believe me if I told you." She lights a cigarette and hands it to me, and I thank her while I watch the lighter illuminate her face as she lights one for herself, and I can see both her scar and her beauty defined. The drive is slow going due to the weather and icy road conditions, so I tell her, "We have time for you to start from the beginning." I turn down the radio with anticipation for her to begin. "Well, I guess I'll start with this. I recently left an abusive relationship, and let me tell you, he was a fucking dickhead. The first year was great, but then he started staying out and not coming home, taking my car and disappearing for like days at a time. Not to mention the verbal abuse. Bitch this, hoe that, you fucking cunt, and always taking my money. But I put an end to him," she said with a vindictive laugh, followed by a long drag of her cigarette and a drink of coffee. "What do you mean, an end to him?" I couldn't help but ask. "Let's just say he's not in prison and he won't be doing life." I didn't even bother to press her for an elaboration. I couldn't help at this point but to ask, "I don't mean to be rude, but I noticed your scar. Was he the one that did that to you?" "Oh, this?" as she drags her finger down the length of her scar on her face. "I got this in New York from some jealous-ass bitch." "What do you mean by some jealous-ass bitch?" I asked. "Well, I was modeling for a while, and it's a competitive profession. And this scar is what you get when you drug a bitch and take her gigs." I had to ask, "What do you mean by drug somebody?" "I mean, she fucked the guy I was with at the time, so one night at an after-hours fashion show, I handed her a cocktail that I mixed with 7 sleeping pills. She made a fool of herself that night and lost her contract. She knew it was me who sabotaged her because she doesn't usually drink, and the only drink she had that night was the one I gave her. Basically, she got her revenge by taking a knife to my face and ruining my modeling career." I'm trying to focus on her story and everything she is saying, while still paying attention to driving on the icy roads through the heavy snowfall and thick fog. "You look in the rearview mirror a lot," she said. "It's almost as if your eyes are talking to yourself." I couldn't help but notice she kept fidgeting with the backpack that was sitting on her lap. I felt that maybe the topic of our conversation was making her uncomfortable. Perhaps she felt insecure because of her scar. So in an attempt to ease her worries, I made a statement. "I think scars can be attractive. They add character and tell stories of one's experiences." She proceeded to reply while slowly unzipping her backpack. "Oh, this scar?" Running her finger along it as she had before. "This? I did this to myself in a bout of depression." "Depression?" I asked, as she was slowly sliding her hand into her backpack. "Yes," she said. I took a blade to my own face and purposely disfigured myself. Now I have chills running through my body and I'm shivered to my core. I'm thinking, what the fuck? So I ask, "Didn't you say you got it when you were a model?" "A model?" she said. "I've never been a model." She starts to take her hand out from her bag, and I can see she is gripping a gun. "What the fuck, Sarah?" "Don't be bothered, Sarah." I couldn't help but look for relief in the rearview mirror.